Hi, this is Regina Liu. It's a great honor to be the IMS President and to deliver this IMS Presidential Address in the 2021 JSM. Like so many other things in this pandemic time, this IMS Presidential Address will be somewhat different from those in the past. Besides being virtual, it will be given jointly by the IMS past president, Susan Murphy, and myself. The pandemics had prevented Susan from giving her address last year. So in keeping with the IMS tradition, I invited Susan to join me today. I'm very pleased that Susan accepted the invitation. So now Susan will go first with her 2020 IMS Presidential Address. Please join me in welcoming Susan Murphy, the IMS past president.
This is Susan Murphy. It was an honor to be the president of IMS during 2019-2020. It was also stressful to be the president of IMS during 2019-2020. It was both the best of times as well as the worst of times. It was the best because of all the wonderful people I was privileged to work with. And it was the worst due to the multiple tragedies and painful events that occurred. In fall 2019, I came in with this agenda that I wanted to improve involvement in IMS by all researchers, and specifically with a special emphasis on new researchers. And we made good progress. By we, I mean, thanks to the then leaders of the IMS New Researchers Group, Alex Volvosky and Bailey Fosdick, as well as the IMS Council. Now the New Researchers Group has an ex officio appointment on the IMS Council so they can be aware of what's going on in IMS. Further, the program committee for the IMS annual meetings will include a representative from the New Researchers Group. And this group will organize an invited session. Also, one of our most important committees is the Nomination and Special Lectures Committee. And now that committee will include a new researcher. And by new researcher, I mean an individual who's out less than or equal to 10 years from their PhD. So my thanks to Alex, Bailey, and the IMS Council for seeing this initiative through. Not only did we want to provide various avenues for new researchers to become more involved in our society, IMS, we actually need more involvement from all IMS members. Thus, the IMS Council decided that at each IMS annual meeting, the sole meetings, approximately 1/2 of the IMS invited sessions will be competitive. This allows members from all over, at small universities, at big universities, small research centers, big research centers, to submit a proposal for an invited session. In fact, if you go to the IMS Annual 2022 meeting website, you'll see a call for proposals. So now is the time to submit your proposal for an invited IMS session. Okay, I'm still on the best times part. So through heroic and persistent efforts, Lisa Lavina and David Madigan have, over multiple years and with multiple IMS presidents, including our current IMS president, Regina Liu, led our efforts to start an IMS data science journal. They have succeeded. In fall 2021, the journal ACMIMS Journal of Data Science will be open to submission. So now is the time to start thinking about that paper that you want to submit this fall. So I've given you a number of best of times. I have to get to the pandemic, which epitomizes the worst of times. This too, though, is still mixed with some best times due to efforts by individuals. So this pandemic, of course, everything went haywire, and in many areas of the world right now, we continue to go haywire. with grief. In late March 2020, I was forced to send a message to all IMS members that due to the pandemic, the Bernoulli Society IMS World Congress 2022 would be postponed to 2021. We were all going into isolation. However, we were really fortunate. Our partner, the Bernoulli Society, led by their president, Claudia Kupelberg, along with Leif Doring, suggested we try a new approach to conducting a conference, namely following the path of the highly successful One World Probability Seminar, to hold the first Bernoulli Society IMS One World Virtual Symposium 2020. Leif was like a one-man hurricane. He ensured all the successful completion of all the critical parts to pull this off. It was fantastic. If you didn't get to attend, I suggest you Google Bernoulli Society IMS World Congress. Bernoulli Society IMS One World Virtual Symposium 2020. And you'll see the list of all the speakers and the many interactive events that were held. There were approximately 3,000 registered attendees. Think about that. It's fantastic. I participated in some of the interactive events, and they really gave me a lot of hope. This was last summer. I needed some hope, and I began to see that despite the pandemic, we will continue to innovate and find ways to connect with one another. It was great. Of course, at that time, a year ago, we didn't realize that a year later now, this pandemic would still be with us. And in some ways, it's worse than ever. The Bernoulli Society IMS World Congress conference, as well as the joint statistical meetings, are virtual this year. And of course, this is the reason for these comments, these virtual comments that I am making right now. All of you are aware of the enormous burden the pandemic has placed on people living across the world. And most recently, on many of our colleagues in India. Many colleagues have family and friends who've been infected and or killed by COVID-19. So it's with that in my mind that I want to really acknowledge the enormous debt that IMS owes to our program chair, Sylvia Ithria, in Bangalore, India, for his perseverance through these really hard times. Thank you so very much, Sylvia. Another painful time occurred last summer. It was on top of the pandemic. And this required a good bit of introspection. As you know, IMS is a member society of COPS. That's the Committee on Presidents of Statistical Societies. This society used to award the R.A. Fisher Award and Lectureship. Members of COPS, including IMS, confronted Fisher's role and the role of statistics more broadly in eugenics, and in particular, how this role impacts our members today. This was a really controversial time, and there were valid points on all sides and a great deal of sadness. In the end, COPS voted to retire the R.A. Fisher Award and replace this award with the COPS Distinguished Achievement Award and Lectureship. Okay, I'm going to end my statements with a pitch. This pitch is to attend our June 27, 2022 to June 30th, 2022 IMS Annual Meeting in London. First, the program chair, Chiwei Yao, is doing a great job organizing the meeting. Second, IMS has worked with COLT. This is the Conference on Learning Theory. This conference attracts both theoretical computer scientists and a number of probabilists who also go to IMS meetings. Their conference, their meeting, starts on July 2nd. So there's one day in between, July 1. And on that day, IMS and COLT will run a joint workshop for both organizations. And I have to have a confession. I have to confess that I took advantage of my presidency of IMS to appoint myself as one of the co-organizers of this joint workshop, along with 2 members of COLT. We already have our speakers lined up. one of which is IMS member Emmanuel Candatz. It's going to be great. If you register for the IMS meeting, you'll automatically be registered for the workshop. If you register for the CULT meeting, you'll automatically be registered for the workshop. It's going to be a really exciting week, so watch for announcements. I hope to see you in real life, that is IRL, in London, summer 22. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Last year, when Susan and I were working on the abstract and title for this address, the COVID situation was dire, although there was a glimmer of hope with the vaccine to blunt the trend. But the long and lingering isolations had made me more reflective. Perhaps in this COVID time, a reflective mode is not all that bad. It may help us take stocks of what we have become and to how we can reinvigorate ourselves moving forward. Taking stocks, we surely did. We conducted in March a survey to assess how effective IMS is in representing our profession and how it can better serve its members. We're very grateful that more than 1,800 members have responded. For that, we thank them. On that note, I hope that all members know that their input is always welcome and valued, even without a survey. The survey has collected very useful information to help us shape our vision moving forward. We thank Junhui Chai, Nicole Pashley, and Linda Zhao for their excellent analysis and report on the survey data, which was published in the August bulletin. In that report, 2 action items stand out. The first is broader future directions for IMS. There's a clear and strong wish from the respondents to see the IMS capitalize on the unprecedented expansion of our profession and to grow in the directions of machine learning and data science, broadly defined, of course. The second is on the membership-based expansion. The data clearly indicates the need for the IMS to strengthen its membership drive effort to 1, retain its student members after graduation and encourage them to participate in the IMS New Research Group, NRG. 2, to recruit more members from emerging areas of data science, underrepresented groups, and from regions outside of North America. The IMS leadership team are exploring ideas for carrying out those action items, including establishing a committee on outreach, possibly with outside PR professionals to help. By the way, I was really happy to see in the survey that many have expressed their willingness to volunteer for IMS service. The IMS needs you, obviously, and would love to know who you are. Please don't be shy and do contact us. Your participation in IMS activities is more than welcome and always appreciated. Among the IMS recent exciting developments, the newly established IMS Grace Wava Award and Lecture certainly stands out. It's a wonderful tribute to Grace's exceptional achievement and contributions to statistics and science in general. Grace has been a role model for many of us, myself included, of course. Independently of her gender, Grace's achievement clearly will justify this honor. But the timing of the establishment of this award really highlights and imparts special significance to the IMS commitment to equality and diversity in honoring and supporting science and its members. An exciting inaugural celebration for the Guava Award has been planned for the IMS Annual Meeting in London next year with the distinguished speaker, Michael Jordan. So please do come and join this celebration next June. On the subject of diversity also, the IMS has established the IMS Committee on Diversity, Equality, and Inclusion, currently chaired by Nicole Lazar. Thanks to the hard work of the committee, several of their recommendations are to be implemented soon to further affirm IMS's commitment to diversity and equality. IMS has several recent initiatives to enhance its membership engagement. They include setting up the IMS NRG, New Researchers Group, as a platform for networking and support among new researchers, as well as some concrete changes in IMS committee makeups to facilitate NRG's participation in the IMS decision-making process. Another one is the IMS Water Cooler Chat, which is set up as an informal but convenient online platform for career development and general support for our members. The IMS will continue to explore new ways to engage members. Needless to say, if you have good ideas, we would love to hear them. Despite the difficulties in the last 1.5 years, the IMS did carry out most of its planned events, including the postponed 2020 Bernoulli IMS World Congress in Korea, and the IMS program in this ongoing JSM. On behalf of the IMS, I would like to express our thanks to the program committees for those events, especially to Siva Atreya and Hee Sok Oh, the program and local committee chairs of the World Congress, and also to Bodhi Sen, the IMS chair of this JSM. As mentioned also in Susan's address, the long-awaited ACMIMS Journal in Data Science will begin next year, 2022. It has the dream team of inaugural co-editors, Yelena Bradick, John Lafferty, and Stratos Idrails. We cannot thank them enough for their taking on this important task for us. Their broad vision and incisive plan for JDS will mark great strides toward IMS's growth in the direction of data science. So do watch out for the coming announcement and plan your participation and submissions to JDS. Finally, I should point out that the session of IMS Presidential Address is traditionally also the occasion for two IMS major celebrations. One is to express our gratitude to the outgoing officers and editors of IMS journals. And the other is to celebrate achievement of IMS award recipients. Regrettably, we have to present all this acknowledgement and words by mail. Although the presentation by mail is not nearly as personal or as ceremonious, it surely does not diminish the depth of our gratitude and the prestige of the awards. In particular, let me take this opportunity to thank our outgoing past president, Susan Murphy, for her strong leadership, and to the program secretary, Ming Yuan, for his dedication to the IMS, despite the disruption and turbulence from the pandemics. Last but not least, I would like to congratulate the IMS award recipients and the newly elected 41 IMS fellows on their well-deserved honors. They make the IMS shine, and they surely make us all very, very proud. Thank you.
Thank you all. And my name is Xiao Lin, and I have this distinct honor to be the past president of IMS. I should say the second order past president. Usually the past president is not involved in events like this but the pandemic has put these two events, 2 years together. So my job here now is to really helping the audience to pose questions to our past president and the current president. And I welcome you to pose challenging questions. I know both Susan and Regina is looking forward to very challenging questions or any suggestions you have. And when you don't, I might chime in to pose some questions myself. But let me first wait for the audience that, and someone should tell us, like, how do the audience ask their question? Are they raising their hand or shout, or what's the mechanism here? I guess nobody knows, which means that I have not done my homework. And but I assume there's a way to raise hands, so some way Oh, platform using chat. Okay, that's my problem. It's because I'm looking at the Zoom part. All right, so let me get to the. But I assume there's a way to raise a hand. So
I just found it, Xiao Lin. I just found it. I found it. It's
Good.
Very exciting.
Oh, platform using chat. Okay.
Right, and then there's a chat box next.
All right, so let me get to the.
Oh, Annie.
There's a way to raise a hand. So.
I just found it, Xiao Lin. I just found it. I found it. It's very exciting.
That's called a replication, in statistics. We have to hear ourselves repeat it quite a few times. But seriously, let's look at some questions that from the audience. I don't see any question yet. Oh, there's a question. Does diversity include non-academics? Who wants to answer that question?
I can try first.
Regina, please.
I guess very soon there's the committee report from this the Committee of Diversity, Equality, and Inclusion. They do specifically address this question, and we are keenly aware of the fact that IMS in the past, rightly or wrongly, is being seen as more or less a society for mostly academics. And I think it's on top of our priorities to really reach out and make our IMS as a more wholesome professional society, including the non-academics. And so this is going to be addressed more clearly and thoughtfully in the committee report. And we hope to make it public and try to also explore the possibility in terms of ways how to reach out to more non-academics. If you have questions, I think it's Michael, right? The question, Michael Cohen. Can you also reach out to us and talk to us? Thank you.
I might suggest that we should have a better term than non-academics. It's just not a very exciting term. So, other questions? As we're waiting for questions, I do want to take this opportunity. This is a question for both Regina and Susan, since both of you are heavily involved, to talk a little bit more about the ACM IMS, the new Journal of Data Science, particularly like what kind of articles you're looking for, what this journal is really trying to accomplish. I think we should really advertise the journal as much as possible to attract authors. So either of you, if you can speak to that.
Susan, shall I try first? Okay, so again, on this new ACM IMS journal in data science, we should first thank, actually, Xiao Lin was the one that started out having this idea and explored the possibility of collaborating with ACM.
That's why I'm asking the question,
I know, that's what I wanted to say, that though it took a little bit of time, but we finally have your dream is about to come true. So as I said in my address, we have the dream team as co-editors. And I think everything, Xiao Lin, you asked about will come out in September, October time in terms of publicity, as well as the vision and the scope for this journal. And I'm quite excited, although I don't really know the extreme details. I think the editors are actually thinking about going beyond the standard platform or format for publications in this journal, including some of the online chat or videos and other forms in terms of reaching out to broader readership. And I don't have the details, but I know the editors are working closely with the advisory committee to come out with a clear vision and the scope for the new journal. And it sounds very ambitious and very, very exciting. And I really look forward to it. So we have to thank Xiao Lin for that. And of course, Susan went through a lot of painful negotiations. And so we finally have this good result to show for.
Thank you, Regina. And Susan, do you want to say anything?
Thanks, Xiao Lin. Right now, like I've been reading, and I think a lot of us have been reading across different fields like computer science, a lot of electrical engineering, physics, and a lot of these papers are essentially statistical papers. And I would like to see more of these papers appear in our Journal of Data Science. It would be really cool. I don't want us to be, I want us to stay the flagship. And by having a Journal of Data Science, we can embrace different ways of thinking about statistics or different applications of statistics that we maybe one of our traditional venues wouldn't particularly appreciate. So I'm excited about this journal. I hope we see more or a broader class of data science authors that appear in our journal. Thanks, Xiao Lin.
Well, thank you. And I certainly will encourage IMS members to really, submit articles to this new venue. And the one thing about building these partnership with, say, computer science, or colleagues, ACM is one of the largest one, probably the largest, computer science community with over about 100,000 membership. That we are already very small. If we don't participate, it looks just kind of out of balance. We're talking about joint efforts. So we certainly hope that that there will be more members to really join. I noticed that there is this awkward delay between the voice and the image, which is kind of weird. I don't know what the audience has noticed that. It's just a technology glitch here. But let me return back to these chat. I think various people have been suggesting terms instead of calling non-academics. There are terms called the BIG for business, industry, and the government. There's other terms. I think that's an interesting discussion. And I want to welcome more questions for both Susan and Regina. And
so I see, Xiao Lin, that Keith O'Rourke said something about real world abstract thinkers. So I'm going to interpret that in my own way. But when I think about my career, my big aspiration is to impact the real world, different areas of science, but by bringing in abstract thinking, abstract statistical thinking. So I'm hoping we're going to see some people like something like that. I mean, this is what I aspire to do. I don't always achieve it. I don't achieve it very often, but we would like to see articles like that in this Journal of Data Science, where you're solving a real world problem, but you have to think and use abstract principles from statistics. Cool.
Actually, on that note, what Susan just said, I should take an opportunity to give some clarification about the mismatch of between the abstract and the address that we gave today. At the time, I think it was last fall, of submitting the abstract, and even earlier this year, Susan and I so much wanted our addresses to be hopeful and inspiring. So we gave the title as proactive and all-encompassing statistics. Nonetheless, the lingering isolation somewhat had made us, Susan and I, more inward-looking in our address. So let me apologize. I just forgot to go back to revise the title. But that being said, with the pace that statistic is growing in recent days, recent years, I think we're all very confident that statistic can be proactive and all-encompassing, as said in the title.
Right, and there are, with the further advancing of the data science in general, there's just a lot more things for statisticians to do, and I certainly would encourage the audience to, if you don't have questions, make suggestions, thinking about what IMS can do for you, or what you can do for IMS as well. But particularly in this era of leading the data science. So be great to hear more of the. Yes.
Do you see that the most recent chat? It's a challenging question. It's from Andre, I think.
Go ahead to read it.
Okay, I'll read it. That means you get to answer it.
Sure, I turn to Regina at the
okay. What are the IMS plans in the near future to recruit more members from emerging areas of data science,
underrepresented groups and from regions outside of North America, as noted in the speeches and in the IMS bulletin. It would be great to participate in these initiatives, those initiatives likely for many of the, I think, people here. So what are our plans? Have we announced who the next president is, or do we know yet? Regina?
Oh, we haven't announced it. I think the official transition is in maybe a few weeks. Yeah, but the coming president is Chris Buzzy from University of Washington.
And then and then we'll continue to get input from people outside of North America, right? Through the council members, as well as future presidents.
Can I just add that actually, I think we are about to discuss how to set up a committee on outreach. And that outreach is very broadly defined in the sense that it's in terms of reaching out and building the broader membership base. And that takes care of all the three things that I mentioned in terms of the emerging areas, underrepresented groups, and also regions outside of North America. And we actually think that we need more help from the professionals in the sense that we should study in what ways we can communicate better and also connect better in terms of the media approach, because IMS has always relied on typically mailing or email. But I think for many other people outside, either in terms of say younger generations, they tend to rely a lot on the media, social media. And also in other regions, as I saw a lot of comments from members from, I can't quite guess because it's completely, because we block out all the personal information. But my guess is these are from the regions of the universities do not have much support for academics. And so those regions probably we should try to build some sort of network with some sort of main contact and ask them to work with IMS to reach out to their own community or regions. And I think in terms of reaching out to the underrepresented group, there are several concrete recommendations from the Committee of the Equality and Diversity. And so all those will be, hopefully, will be part of the agenda on the committee of the new committee of outreach. And I think the question asked is from Andreas, right? So maybe Andre, can you talk to us if you have good ideas for us to try to work on? Thank you.
Let me just add to the point about, this international representation. I want to just tell an anecdote that when I was approached by the leadership of ACM, the largest computer science group, one of the main reasons they decided to form a partnership with IMS instead of other, statistical societies is because they value we're being international. And because ACM itself is very international, so that was one of the key reasons that. And I think from my perspective, in terms of thinking about what we can do to ensure this international representation as well as members' participation, I think what's important is that we need to keep talking about these big topics that is not only of interest to US. It's quite easy to be US centric, even when you're not intent doing so. Let me give an example, because I've been being the editor of Harvard Data Science Review. that when I intended data science review to be very, very global, but when I was writing to my board members, I was using language like, we want to talk about education, we want to talk about K to 12. They'll be writing back to me, say, Xiao Lin, what is K to 12? That's a US language. I will be talking about federal government, involvement. They will remind me, say, not every country has a federal government, right? So it's just that kind of thing. I think we're very used to thinking in a way that it's very common because we're here. We just need to make an effort to make sure that we don't, in this all effort being inclusive, don't forget that the true inclusiveness is the whole globe. It's not just the U.S. And it's pretty easy to overlook that just because so many things happen in this country. So I think we just need to think about the topics, the things what our members outside the U.S. would be interested in. And I know that's harder because many of us are staying here, but I think that's exactly what IMS need to make, put a further effort into it.
Xiao Lin, there's another question. You want me to read it?
Thoughts on the place of probabilists in these various initiatives?
This is a difficult question. One of the reasons why I wanted badly for our annual meeting to be close to sequential with COLT is I've been to COLT a couple of times and I see a lot of our probabilists there. People who I used to often would see at IMS meetings. So I think this is a way for us to bring more members and provide more opportunities for probabilists who haven't gone to COLT, for example, or probabilists from COLT who haven't come to IMS. I would like to see that.
Regina, any thoughts on that?
Yes, actually, it's I was naive enough to think that when I became the president, I will try to explore the possibility of merging Bernoulli Society and IMS. So little did I know that this is an impossible task because the two are completely different entities, that they're governed by different government or the company, so to speak. Nonetheless, I still think this is one important issue that IMS should address, because I believe that IMS in the last 20, 15 years have been trying really hard to broaden its engagement with probabilists. I talked to several past presidents and leaders in probability. I think I talked to many of them, and they seem to suggest that IMS had to have a better defined missions for probabilists, or altogether, actually, David Aldous put out the rather provocative suggestion. He said that altogether, IMS should change its title. Instead of Institute of Mathematical Statistics, it should change something to be more or broader or more inclusive. Nonetheless, I think that's it's quite a tall order. So I think I've been talking to Chris, the coming president, and I think Chris, being a probabilist, he had a lot of thoughts on this. And I'm hoping that we can work together to make this effort more successful.
Well, during the year when I was the president, I think the thing, I think many of you know that one of the challenges of organizing these meetings together is these topics are seemingly too separate. Certainly we have these sessions that statisticians might find them too probabilistic, or whatever that word is, or the other way around. And so one thing I've been thinking about, and I really think that we do have a better chance now. I think if we think about what's a common language between statistics and the computer science, probability is certainly among them. So there are there are definitely topics where you can really draw interest from both statisticians and the probabilists. I think we probably need to think about more of organizing these talks, particularly these big lectures, like world lectures. As you always hear, the world lectures having issues with being either too much probability or too much statistics, right? You would depend on who's giving it. And I think that it's kind of defeat the purpose if we think about these big lectures to classify them as probability or statistics, because the whole idea of these big lecture is to inform the whole IMS group as what are the most interesting, most cutting edge research, regardless whether it's probability or statistics. I think probably some way of having these topics really will attract all of us, regardless what we work on. But it's a topic. It's people like myself. I'm very interested in learning all kinds of stuff. I may not know them, but it will attract me if that's something conveyed with either great practical impact, or it's just intellectually very challenging, or very interesting. And I think we probably can put more effort into having these topics that are really shared by a broad audience. We'll see more of the questions from the audience. And Susan, Regina, you two should feel free to pose questions to each other.
I think we talk so much to each other. I'm not quite sure. We still have a lot of ongoing discussions, but I can't think of a question that can have a quick answer from Susan at the moment.
Well, then ask a question that Susan won't have any answers. So we can all discuss.
Okay, Susan, you start then.
I don't know what the question is. I just, to me, IMS is, I don't know. I have a very immature view of the world. To me, IMS is about being happy and seeing the beauty in theory and working on problems that have an impact. I mean, that's the way I think. I'm sort of kind of a small person. That's all I care about. And so that's how I view IMS. To me, IMS is my home, and yeah, I love IMS.
I like that phrase. IMS is my home. I think so that was also the case for many people. I remember when I first graduated, somebody at ASA was asking me some input. Then he looked at me and said, "But you're an IMS person, right?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Because you publish papers in the annals." So yeah, so I had always thought that IMS is a home to me and for me.
Well, this reminds me of a question that I think I talked a little bit about when I was giving my president address. I got reminded, Steve Stigler wrote an article, not too long ago, about is there a future for ASA, right? And obviously that it's the same question about is there a future for IMS? Like, how can we sustain this? What 100 years from now, what IMS will look like? How do we attract these members? How do we, really recruit people who are not grew up in kind of traditional mathematical statistics, right? How do we engage undergraduate students? ASA does a lot about education, go beyond the graduate school if you want to build a pipeline. How much IMS is doing? Should IMS do more? From in the undergraduate space as well. And so I think there's just a lot of questions that we can all think about, and hopefully that there'll be actions we can take.
I think, Xiao Lin, that the question Edsel poses is really good. I mean, I'm hoping very much. We talked about this, Regina. Do you see that question that Edsel poses? Post-pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Susan, you go first. You're reading the question, right?
Okay, I'll read it. Post-pandemic, should IMS consider hybrid meeting formats? And I've been arguing strongly. I mean, I had a very positive experience with the One World Bernoulli IMS symposium. It was very positive, and it was fantastic to speak to people from Africa and young people, very young people, people considering to go to grad school and so on. I hope that we will consider at least somewhat hybrid formats, because many people in different areas, not only, you know, in Africa or South America, but many areas of the States and in Europe, they just don't have the resources to travel to meetings. And if there's a way for us to be more welcoming, we should do that. And certainly hybrid meeting formats provides that type of an opportunity. So I hope very much that we will indeed do this. And we did last year with the Bernoulli Society, and I hope we continue to do this.
I certainly agree with everything that Susan said. And I think the hybrid or even online meetings have great values. And so I definitely endorse that. I think this issue was also discussed in another meeting recently. And I just brought up a point that should be also considered if we are ever going to set up most of the hybrid meetings. I guess I learned from some of the colleagues in some smaller universities. I should not say smaller, it's rather the universities who are concentrating on cost saving. And so apparently they impose some sort of guidelines that if the meetings can be attended without traveling, then the hybrid, the one without traveling, is preferred. And so I think when we discuss the organization of hybrid meetings, we should take great care not to give this availability of hybrid meeting become impediment for people who want to actually attend the meeting in person, because I still believe that in-person interactions in the meetings are most helpful and beneficial to all of us, especially to the more junior faculty members.
Yep, I would completely agree. I think it would be a shame that universities use that as excuse to prevent particular students and junior faculty, or other in industry, government as well, to attend this kind of a networking opportunity. So I think we do need to be careful on that. I just want to read that Mariana Pansky just remind all of us that there are areas of probability that are vital for data science. I completely agree. I think they're related to the models with the data, like exponential inequality. She reminds us like the CLT, the central limit theorem, really belongs to both probability and the statistics, and we all know how vital that is. So thank you, Mariana. And Ximing has a question about, does IMS have regional plans for those outside the US and Europe? Regional activity might help those members. I remember, if I remember correctly, Zhenqing was the one started the IMS China. There was this, I don't know what's the current status of IMS China or other similar groups. Regina, Susan, you let us know.
I guess I can only add 2 points. One is from the survey data, we guess that a lot of people from say Africa or other continent were having difficulty getting connected to IMS. So I think there was something I wrote, I announced that there's a 25 free membership are offered to people who would like to consider them or who are in need. And I think we will try to reach out to all the people in those areas which we think may like to take advantage of this. And that's one concrete thing that we thought of doing it. The others were more or less, I think, and I hope the new committee on the outreach will also consider taking actions in addressing this questions just raised.
I'm reading the chat. Annie Chu basically said that she likes the Bernoulli IMS One World meetings because it's 24 hours around the clock, and I think that people in different time zones can call in to participate. Dealing with time zone has been a serious challenge for all of us who trying to teach online, and I think having that flexibility is important. Mike Stein reminded us that there is a moral imperative to limit long-distance travel because of climate change. Obviously, something we should all take very seriously. So his question: so why shouldn't all of our meetings be hybrid? I guess that Mike, I completely understand the point. I think this probably will work better to also coordinate it with what we just talked about, these regional events. We just want to make sure that those not being able to travel or not traveling will have the similar benefit as others who will benefit from this kind of in-person interaction. So if you have a regional group works together, so there won't be people just isolated on their own, that probably will work better. But I'd love to hear others opinion. Debbie Bank just said, I strongly agree, we need to make changes in our travel style.
I just want to bring up, the hybrid version of the meeting has some really interesting advantages over in person. It's hard to believe that it could. But for example, I did an Ask Me Anything session. And so there was a whole bunch of senior people who each one ran a 30-minute Ask Me Anything session. And people from all over the world, many of whom were undergrads. There was an assistant professor who was trying to recruit students. All over the world, they got on this 30-minute, we went for an hour, but it was supposed to be 30 minutes. And they asked me all kinds of questions. And it was great. And I have to say, if it had been a face-to-face meeting, I don't think any of those people would have come to me. So having these, there's sort of novel ways that you can try and reduce the distance between people when it's online. It's just, how do you do this? It's not easy, but I had a great time in that Ask Me Anything session.
Well, so speaking of novel ways, Mike Stein just suggests, what about several regional meetings that held simultaneously that can interact virtually?
That's cool.
I do think that's actually a really interesting idea. This probably also help these regional groups. And Xiuming responded, the time zone challenge. It's true, but we probably can coordinate. I was putting together IMS task force involving members, from like all over the world. We eventually figured out 8 a.m. in the morning is that kind of or a.m. California time turned out to be somewhat best, and so there are definitely challenges. But if we have ever tried to meet the challenge of our time zone, I think the pandemic has taught us a lot. So, other questions?
So Xiao Lin and Regina and all the people here, I have to tender my apologies. I have to leave now. I'm thrilled. See, so here's another great thing. If we had an in-person meeting, I'm not sure I would have gotten all these questions on chat. I think it's great that people ask questions on chat. It's great. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you, Susan, for joining us. Yeah, it was great having you.
And we will assign all the tasks to you after you leave. Okay. So
Good job, Charlie.
Job for the past president. And, okay, bye-bye. And okay, Regina, now it's all on your shoulder. And
oops.
David Bank just remind people the Blackwell Tapia meeting is doing what Mike suggested in terms of this kind of joint interaction. More questions, suggestions for Regina and for IMS in general? Yeah. Oh, any other topic we have not touched upon? The serving members, recruiting international members as well as juniors, and reach out to industry, education. Well, I'm going to pose one to Regina, and this is one in the past we also discussed about. And I think in old days, one of the biggest benefit to join the IMS is all the journals, right? Because all the journals, that's part of the membership. But now the journal is mostly online access, make it easier. And I think organizing these meetings certainly will be a great benefit for our members. What are the other things currently that IMS is thinking about in terms of serving the members that will make it particularly attractive to the student members? Say, yes, that's, we want to join because we can see the direct benefit.
Well, you asked exactly the question that has been sort of running through our minds the whole year, essentially, because there's some sort of worrying trend about decreasing membership. One can sort of conveniently blame it on the COVID and other situations, but the fact that I think IMS itself has to really think about how to capitalize the change of our field and how to make the membership attractive or appealing in other ways than just sending out nice journals in print in old days. And so this issue has been discussed in many ways, and I think that was part of the reason that we thought we should do the survey and also set up the committee on the outreach to find ways to connect ourselves better with our members, and then find out exactly what we can do to serve the members better. So I don't have a concrete solutions, but I just wanted to point out that this is obviously a major question that we should ask, because it would affect IMS's standing and its own mission. And hopefully, I think the leadership team can continue to explore the possibilities and try to reinvigorate IMS and make ourselves more appealing and more useful to our members.
Thank you, Regina. And you were mentioning about the survey actually is a perfect segue to the question that Annie Chu just raised. Can you highlight some findings from the recent IMS member surveys? What are the major findings there?
I think the key thing there, as I pointed out, that there are two obvious action items that we should address. One is that there's a very strong desire to see the IMS, as I said, capitalize the recent unprecedented growth of our field, statistic broadly, and to grow IMS into the direction, the emerging areas such as machine learning and data science broadly defined. And the second one is it's on the concern of the membership base. I think we have to expand our base in terms of in many directions. One is that we're not doing enough. We should do enough. Let me put it this way: we should do more to attract and to appeal to junior or new researchers. in that we have a lot of student members, which has zero membership fee, but we are not able to retain them after graduation. It's important for us to find a way to retain those members and to show the value of IMS or the relevance of IMS. And secondly, I think if they remain as members, I think we need to encourage them to interact or to participate in the new researcher group, which is recently formed. And we have changed many of our committee makeup, such as a nomination committee, special lecture committee, and many other key committees to include the liaisons from new researchers group, because we want their participations. We also feel that it's vitally important to have those committees to have the perspective of the new researchers. And that's in terms of the retaining the student members and also grow the new researchers members. And as I mentioned, I think we also need to do more to reach out to non-academic or general members, the members from the new areas, more broadly defined as statistics or probability. And obviously, we need to do more to reach out to connect with the regions outside of North America and underrepresented group. I was a little bit surprised to see that from the survey, the percentage of female members is quite low. It's I think it's probably about less than a quarter or about a quarter, between a quarter and 1/3, if I remember correctly. But looking around, most of the statistics department would have about close to half of the PhD students. So I think it clearly shows that we can do a lot better in terms of attracting or recruiting female members. And of course, there are also other groups. I talked to a few LGTB members. We haven't had any concerted effort to reach out to them. I think we should. I'm thinking about partnering with their caucus, and we can do better in that regard. And these two really, this sort of a broader direction for IMS moving forward and broader membership base are the two key takeaway from the survey.
Thank you. And there's another question, which is a little bit returned to the previous one, as it is from Andrea Shraka. I hope I pronounced your name not too badly. It's really about, are there considerations to further explore the possibility of electronic communication and the meetings, such as the One World type of seminars? Essentially, does IMS have plans to further on this, take advantage of this digital, technology here for both meetings and the publication?
I think, as Susan just mentioned, we have been talking about this issue actively. So I think, Xiao Lin, you might remember that one time we talked about IMS as a professional society. We actually can do a lot better making use of the tech sort of professionals, as well as the professionals in PR. And I think those type of people can help us to assess or get a better sense as how we can balance all these different means and different effort that we can take and try to focus on those that we can do better and more effectively. And so the conversation and the discussions are ongoing. That's all I can say. but we are keenly aware of the fact that those are big issues that we should consider. Yeah.
Thank you, Regina. Mariana Pensky just asked a question, which I think is really quite to the point about what we were talking about before about reaching out to the more broad audience. What she said, can we approach companies who employ a lot of data scientists and talk to them about IMS membership? Can we do this with non-US company also? They may pay IMS membership fees if IMS offers them something they like. I think that the key question is, what can we offer? This is a very concrete question, right? Suppose someone is now just joined, a young data scientist joined some company, and we approach them, say you should join IMS, and I think they probably can ask, okay, sure, but what do you offer? How should we think about this?
I love this question because I had raised a lot of possibilities of doing better membership recruitment recently, including actually that we should give entities such as companies or research centers or even departments as a wholesale package. Let's say that if you have, we can give you up to 20 members if you are paying this much membership. And so it's a deal that will allow the universities to save some cost, but also automatically give the incentives to their members or faculty to join IMS. Especially, I learned that a lot of people forgot to renew their membership just because they're too busy. And so this way, it's almost automatic. And I also think if we do this, if we give this approach to research centers or companies, as Mariana mentioned, I think it's a win-win situation. As a matter of fact, I also proposed, and I'm crossing my fingers to hope that this motion will pass the council. I propose to change our committee on memorials to committees on endowed lectures and memorials, because in the past, IMS really doesn't have other means for a broad, more robust way of fundraising and to raise our profiles. So I think that we can also engage companies, especially research centers such as, I shouldn't throw out names, right? Because otherwise it looks like I'm targeting particular companies. I'm saying that if those companies are willing to provide endowed funds for many ways, we can actually give them incentives in terms of having their members enrolled as our members. There are many ways that IMS can really look into to enhance our ways of fundraising and raising our own profile, and also enhance our contact with the outside world, not just within the universities. So I'm all for it. Marianne, if you have some other particular companies in mind, please talk to me. And on that note, I should say that I realize that, including myself in this case, I think even though we all feel that IMS is our home, we very rarely initiate any conversations or communications with IMS. And I noticed that there are a lot of heartfelt comments in the survey. So please, I'm pleading to all members, anytime, please, if you have any suggestions and if you have any good ideas, so if you just wanted to bounce off your idea on how IMS can do better, please reach out to us, because I think your values, your opinions and input will be most valuable for IMS. Well,
we are very fortunate. We already have quite a few suggestions in the chat box, but let me start with what Jiayang Jiayang said. Jiayang was basically posed a general question, which is, I think most people are under the impression that IMS members are mostly from academia. So the question is there any effort to reach out to statisticians in companies and the government? Is there any effort to reach out to the NSF for a more equitable budget distribution amongst statisticians and the computer scientists? That one I actually can answer a little bit in a minute, but I want to really bring up, several suggestions already made. Mike Stein, I think, made a great suggestion that allow a company to organize a session at the meeting and have some academics serve as discussants. That will provide a direct communications between industry and academia, and we'll learn from each other's what are the important problems, what are the challenges, what are the methods known. And Sylvia Lee talking about providing maybe training seminars at the discounted rate, and with on the demanded topics by the company. And I think other society do that, and IMS probably have not done really much on that part, but it's certainly worth of thinking about. And Keith has a drawing from Vivian's talk. What would the big companies data science get from IMS? They won't get elsewhere. I think that's a great question. And so let me just say, this is again, I'm using since my experience in the last few years is all from Harvard Data Science Review instead of IMS. But there's a little bit lesson learned there that I found that there's a lot of industry kind of thought leaders. They very much want to publish something that the academias will read. Communicate there's the problems there, and they don't feel they can get the publications in the usual say IMS journals, but they find there's need of this kind of a communication, and so I think what Mike suggested might be a really great way of using these meetings as a forum. Back to the question, Jiayang, you raised. Is it Jiayang's question? Yes. About can we talk about NSF about more equitable budget distribution among statisticians and the computer scientists? I can report at least the time that when I was the president, I was approached by several NSF officers, and they were, I think this is my surprise, a lot of members, their complaint, or rather their suggestion, not necessarily complaint, is that the statisticians really need to take a lot more initiatives. They actually issues a lot of the kind of calls, and often, and some of them told me, sometimes there's a zero participations from statisticians. And the computer scientists, engineers, they were putting proposals, they talked to NSF is a lot more active, in a lot more active ways. In fact, they basically told me, Xiao Lin, if the members are not, if the statistical members are not approaching us, we can't really give them money to them. But we are ready, but you need to encourage the IMS members and more broadly to really take initiative. That was a part of the reason some of you might remember that I invited the director of mathematical was a division of mathematical science, Quang, to write an article for the IMS Bulletin about what the IMS for what the NSF is looking for. And so I think it actually goes both ways, that we complain we don't have enough opportunities, but when the opportunity is there, we really need to participate, be a lot more aggressive. Let me give you another example. And now this partly is both because our culture is not being that aggressive, and also probably we have not done a great communication. When that years that ACM, IMS, we have some joint grants to attract people to go to conferences. We provide fundings for, this was a year for this tooling, this annual award. Before that, there's a ACM, IMS, joint workshop. And when these are call for grant proposals posted online, the number allowed slots was kind of taken away, like waiting 24 hours. But it's all by computer scientists. It's just like we even that was available to everyone. And that first meeting, the ACM IMS meeting, As some of you know, that we have about 250 people in the workshop, and the statisticians IMS membership was like, like a single digits. So I think what I'm saying this is to tell the membership that we really need to, if we want to take a kind of leadership in data science in those events, we really need to participate more. And of course, IMS needs to do a better job to communicate, to broadcast that these opportunities are available. But we certainly are not doing nearly as good a job as, for example, ACM is doing. So even this opportunity are available to us. Yeah. Let's see, the other questions.
Well said, Xiao Lin. Before you close, if there are no other questions, could I just ask those who had sent the suggestions in the chat to forward me their suggestions? I tried to copy them, but I don't think I was successful. So it would be very helpful if you can just forward your suggestion to me, to my email at Rutgers. Thanks.
Right, I would ask Brad or Paul that I assume the chat can be saved, and yes.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, I hope so. Then there definitely there are definitely a lot of I don't think we have covered everything there. And let's see, do we still have more times? And
I think it's closed at 6:45, so it's less than 10 minutes.
Okay.
I got a message from Kathleen.
I see. Okay. And well, we still have a few more minutes. So there's one from Michael Edwards. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Certainly with the company I belong to, Canadian successful CRO, money is not an issue. Time is always the issue. We're extremely busy. Right? I think that's a great point. My IMS membership lapsed mainly because of no time supported for it. If meetings, journals can be seen as providing training essential for the statistician at the company, such as biopharmaceutical workshops, journals geared towards pharma data analysis needs, then the company would be glad to help support that. I think that's a great point. Particularly these data scientists, the leading one, they're all very busy. So that these days it's all about, do you provide something that worth my time? And I think money is actually secondary. I think that's a terrific point. And Regina, you have any thoughts on how do we provide something people feel like this is worth my time, not the money issue?
Oh, well, you pretty much said it. I think this is an issue I think IMS should consider. And I think overall, it's definitely true that IMS traditionally, up to this point, hasn't really thought much about this. And I think this is something we really should take it seriously. Yeah.
And Chen has a question. I did not see that before. Sorry, Chen. Is growing membership the primary IMS goal? How can we grow the membership without seriously compromise of IMS traditional value or its leadership role in forging cutting-edge research in frontiers of statistics and data science? Regina, you have thoughts on that?
That's a good and important question. Yes, I think this is something we have to be mindful when we forging the effort to expand our membership. But I do believe that for IMS's own survival, we have to strive on growth rather than just stay with our current situation. Let me put it this way. So I think we have to find a way to balance this. I understand Jianqing's point, but I do think that at this moment, I feel that the growth should be really the front issue for IMS.
Jianqing, let me say a few words. I truly share your concern, your view. And my thinking is that we definitely want to maintain the IMS, the traditional value, but that's different from maintain IMS traditional topics. And I think what we consider cutting edge, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, it's certainly changing, right? I think the way we include, attract the newer members, grow members, we basically need to be more open-minded at what we consider other cutting-edge research. And there are tons of the things that we traditionally we probably do not study. Data privacy, for example, is a one that traditionally that's more studied in the domain of the these government survey literature or the government database, right? But now data privacy, differential privacy, these topics are really moving toward the center of the research. And I think you can certainly recruit people working in these areas are probably was not part of the traditional kind of IMS cohort, but now they are. I mean, there are just tons of people out there is that they're doing incredibly interesting research. Let me again kind of plug in Harvard Data Science Review that most recently we published articles about should we consider qualitative methods in data science, right? And because if you really think about data science, there are lots of issues that are not purely quantitative. How do you think about a qualitative? It's a much more like kind of social science, that kind of approach. And it's I find them incredibly challenging. And but probably currently IMS probably won't think much about qualitative research, but the qualitative approaches are getting really more and more important because the data science problem, particularly all these privacy issues, transparency, and equity, lots of things are not just purely quantitative studies. A lot of things are policy, driven, social aspect, and it's very relevant because whatever we do have the impact or will be impacted by these considerations. So this will be, what IMS trying to attract some social scientists, study, thinking very deeply about these qualitative issues. I think, I would consider that's actually cutting edge. And so I think we probably can think broadly about what cutting edge means and also expanding the IMS role in this big area, big sort of a area of data science. Let's see, other questions. Right, Michael Edward just said, yeah, data privacy is a hot area. Would very much like to see populist approach to such problems. Well, let me just mention, I know we're running out of time because now you get me talking. The whole data privacy, differential privacy actually is very related to this whole notion called imprecise probability, because the idea is really bounding these probability by upper bound and the lower bound. So there is a deep connection there. I happen to work a little bit on that, so I know a little bit about that. So this is just a kind of that kind of approach that will really be interest to both the probabilist and the statistician, and also reflects the kind of a new cutting edge research. So you're absolutely right. This is very much related to a good probabilistic approach. All right, we managed to fill the entire time. We still have 1 minute, and we're going to ask Regina as the current president to give you the final thoughts. So before we close it.
Well, thank you, Xiao Lin. I'm very grateful that so many of you took time to attend this session and share a lot of your views and thoughts with us. And I think this is a wonderful experience for me. And I thank you on behalf of IMS. And I also appreciate the opportunity to be here to talk to you.
Well, thank you all. And I do want to say this is probably in the past, the IMS President Address never had this many times to have discussions with the members. So I think that this is probably one of the silver lining of the pandemic. And I hope that in the future, when we consider this kind of format, maybe there's a way to keep part of this, a direct conversation with the president. I think that that should be something very useful. And so thank you all, and have whatever good evening, good afternoon, good night, and wherever you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you.